Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sudden Wealth. I hope you're having a very good day. If you do enjoy my content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. It's actually very helpful for the channel, so I do really appreciate it. Today, I was thinking about discussing a bit about the US dollar on a more historical level. I'll make it a short video, but and the fact that the US dollar is the world reserve currency. Many people don't know exactly what that means and why certain people believe we are actually that the dollar will not be the reserve currency for far too long. Actually, that's not a very difficult prediction because the dollar is not the first reserve currency. We had the Portuguese currency first, then the Spanish currency, the Dutch currency, British currency, and now the US dollar as a reserve currency. And the time that they hold as reserve currencies tends to vary, but it is typically between 60 to 75 years old, which means the US dollar is more at the tail end of its lifetime as the reserve currency. Now, the reason why countries lose that status is actually always the same: armed conflicts, huge deficits, huge accumulation of debt, high inflation, and weak leadership every single time. So if you hear the list of items that I just mentioned, you will see that we are seeing all of them play out right in front of us today. Now, why is this so relevant? So, and how does this fit with 1971? So prior to 1971, all currencies were backed by gold, which means that politicians were somewhat under a leash, because if they would go very crazy about some spending, the currency immediately drops a lot in value because it's pegged to gold, and gold, you need to mine it, and it's physical, it's limited, all this kind of stuff. So governments hate the gold standard, obviously, for that reason, because and the issue why these reserve currencies and fiat currencies in particular always lose their value is because if a politician is in power, his main goal or her main goal is to get re-elected. So if there's a recession happening, which is part of the business cycle, it happens all the time, but people get upset, and people are voters. So what they care about is re-election. So the first thing that an elected politician cares about is the re-election. So they will not resist into spending too much money, printing money, etc., to make things look better by the time of the re-election. So that is one of the issues, and that's actually exacerbated by the fiat currency because you don't notice the inflation so quickly as you would with the gold standard. And if you look at the chart of the US trade and budget deficit after 1971, so it used to be very balanced. It goes like this, boom, like terrible, right? But these things take decades to play out. And now we have a system called Bitcoin, for example, which would actually be one of the best options for a global reserve currency. Why? Because it's not controlled by one single government. It actually operates under rules of mathematics and not rules of men. And it has no single nation basically controlling it and trying to move the strings behind the scenes for countries to do what they want. So it actually would be a great situation to have that currency, to have Bitcoin, for example, or another cryptocurrency as a global reserve currency. Of course, governments will fight it, but I'm talking about a situation where things are so dire that they may be forced to do it, which is completely different. Now, when you are a part of the reserve currency, and this is a big issue around the sanctions, for example, you need to be a neutral country, which the US is nothing but neutral. Like, they're always involved in all sorts of stuff. But the point is, when you're the reserve currency, when the other countries hold your currency, the one that you create, out of nowhere, out of nothing, as reserve in terms of value. If you start sanction countries that you don't like, even your friends, see France and Germany meeting with Xi from China and talking about getting away of the US dollar. These are allies, huh? These are not enemies. These are allies talking about de-dollarizing. But the problem is when you sanction entities, even your friends start thinking, okay, what if in 2 years I do something that the US doesn't like, and I'm the next one under those sanctions. So they have an incentive to get away from the US dollar as a reserve currency. So this is just a repetition of other events in the past. Of course, now everything is more digital, everything is more, it's not so war-based politics as it used to be. But in any case, a lot of the same patterns, you see them today. And I do see a chance for maybe Bitcoin, either other crypto, I don't know at this stage. I don't think it's going to happen like many Bitcoin people think, like in 2035. I think it's going to be closer to 2040, 2020, 2045, 2050 maybe. Somewhere in the 40s or 50s, in which I think a large percentage of countries in the globe may consider holding Bitcoin as the reserve currency. We need to see, that's actually something that I'm looking for in this cycle, to see if another country follows El Salvador. We've always heard about Mexico, Nigeria, other African nations considering it, but it will be, unfortunately, countries are actually not very smart in these things. If you plan to have Bitcoin as your currency, as your reserve currency, or to hold it as a reserve, you would buy it when it's 15,000. But unfortunately, most likely, these countries will buy it when it's 50 or 60,000. It's just, look, there are people in the government, they always do what the other people do, which is chase the green candles. They want to see the green candles first before they make those kind of decisions. But in any case, this is how a bit of history, very short history on the US dollar as a reserve currency, the pictures of the past, and where we may be going into the future. Now, as I mentioned before, when you start predicting too far out, you risk making a jerk out of yourself. So this is what I'm saying, like a very remote possibility in the future. But it depends on so many factors that I don't think anybody can say with a straight face that they have any clue of what's going to happen. But I do believe that there's potential, and then it's up to any of us to evaluate the merits of that potential without, of course, I didn't say anything that is financial advice, but these are some of the scenarios that you need to consider. And at the same time, you need to consider that the entire crypto market goes to zero. That's also a possibility. So you always need to take the good and the bad, and don't fall in love with narratives in your mind. That's very dangerous and can only lead one way, to disgrace. So that was a bit of a tangent here, but in any case, I think it's an interesting topic. And yeah, it would be nice to see what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.